presentation, because probably like, most of you already got the information, but this is an opportunity for you to ask questions. If you have any queries about the campaign, the feasibility, logistics, etc., just interrupt me at any time. But I'm just going to very quickly run through what we are planning for this year. So I'm going to jump a slide, which was about last year, really, and then just, I think, start with what we want to achieve this year. Obviously, we still have the mission of targeting the general public, the healthcare professionals, and the media. And the theme that we're going to go with is Know It, Confront It. This is hepatitis. And we're going to play with the 3 wise monkeys gestures, the see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. Like yesterday, at some of the presentations, you saw some of those posters. We're very happy to see them, that you're actually using them. This was very useful and very successful last year. A lot of people said that they really liked what these gestures mean about the ignorance and the fact that people are ignoring hepatitis, and we need to make a stop. We need to make a stop. So this is going to be the theme for this year's campaign. So we've developed a range of posters for you using this concept, the 3 wise monkeys concept. And this is an example of some of the posters that are going to be featuring in the website that you can download yourselves. And actually, we still have that customizable tool in our website. We are just revamping it. As of May, you'll be able, it's going to be a new tool, much easier to use, and you can basically use any of our images and add your logo and add your own messages that are relevant to your own countries and make it really yours. These are some of other posters for this year. As you can see, still playing on the this is hepatitis, know it, confront it, and the see no evil, hear no evil, and speak no evil gestures. And here's another element that we chose to feature in this year's campaign as well, with the Know It, Confront It, with the sense of we wanted to use children to show that time is running out, and also because they do obviously from experience, children work. You show children and show images of cute babies, and all of a sudden you start attracting attention from a lot of bodies, especially the international and supranational ones. So we thought, let's take advantage of this and let's find an angle that will work for our message. So we chose that time is running out, let's act now and protect the new generation. Alright, so about the campaigns. As you know, we have these 3 little guys over there, and you can find them in our booth as well. Actually, I've been just told this morning that Hillary, who's manning our World Hepatitis Alliance group, has been fighting with a lot of people that have been taking the monkeys away from her. But we have them there, and we have some for you as well. But what's this monkeys campaign? If you're not aware about it, we have those monkey sets that we're sending to all of our members free of charge. And what we want to do is just create that global, that feeling that everybody's together and participating and want to do something really cool. So we're asking you to do is just take these monkeys on a trip around the world and photograph them. And photograph them against the Eiffel Tower, the real Christ, and all the landmarks in your country. And we are putting all of these images in a map, and you can see them, you can hover over that, and you can see all the pictures that have been introduced. And just to have that feeling that a lot of people are participating, it's a world movie. This campaign actually has 2 sides to it. The first side is the one that I just explained. We send the little guys to you and you take pictures of them. And the other side is that you can do it yourselves. So take pictures of yourselves doing the 3 gestures, like that lady over there or that guy. And there's a different gallery just with people. And in fact, if you do it during ESO and send a picture of yourself doing this in a fun way, you get a chance to win a Kindle Fire. So we're giving a Kindle Fire for the best see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil tweet. Here's another thing about the monkeys. In order to make it even more fun, we are actually customizing them with t-shirts. You can put your received yours yet, we are doing that for you. The World Hepatitis Day logo in your language, and we're just making sure that it's very personalized and you can have that feel to it. These are some of the pictures that have already been sent by some of our members. And then one day in WHO, I don't think I was allowed to do that, but I just went in to the picture anyway. So let's say they're supporting. Again, a reminder that we're giving out a King of Fire for the best tweet. And just before I move on, Hillary was asking me that if Polo Pantos from Croatia and BHE from Bosnia could go to our booth. She has monkeys for you waiting right there. Right. The next element of the campaign, still keeping that different tone and a more fun tone to it, is the Guinness World Record. So last year, we set this record. We had immense participation from everybody. It was very successful. We're very pleased with that. The record was the most people performing See No Evil, Hear No Evil, and Speak No Evil in 24 hours. We targeted 50 locations and at least 8 new countries. Oh, actually, that's for 2013. But last year was a success. We see Charles shaking the hand of the Guinness man over there. We have the certificate, and we have to thank you for taking part in this initiative. It's not difficult to take part. We think it's a very good opportunity to get involved with your community and get people together. You just need to perform the 3 Hear No Evil, See No Evil, and Speak No Evil gesture, and take that picture and send it to us. So we really encourage you to participate. We're also doing an SMS campaign this year, but this is targeting a little bit more the African countries, because we've heard that from the experience of last year as well, that's the best way to reach the general population there. The reason I'm saying that to you is that we already have some good experience with this now. So if you would want to do something in your countries with SMS, we may be able to help you and tell you how we did it last year with the countries in Africa in terms of approaching the network operators and starting that dialogue. Obviously, we always produce toolkits, so we have a World Hepatitis toolkits full of ideas and suggestions about events that happened in the past that you may want to, if you're not feeling creative, walk up and thinking, oh, what can I do? So you have from very simple events, distributing leaflets, to bigger events and creating maybe a press conference, etc. So you have good examples in there. We have a working with the media toolkit, organizing events, online and social media, but I'll leave that for Seb because he's here and later he's going to be talking about social media to you, so he's going to be a walking and talking toolkit, so that's going to be more fun. We have working with businesses, maybe finding some support, some local support for you. For instance, not only relying on, obviously I understand, and we rely on pharmaceutical companies, but as an example, for the monkeys, we got support from the mail. So we asked them, we have to be sending a lot of monkeys out, would you like to support this campaign? So maybe you can talk to some printers or so other businesses that may be willing to help you, and you get these things for free, so just an idea. And obviously reaching audiences through SMS. So these are the main focuses of our campaign. And this is my last slide, really. As I said, this is going to be a very, very short presentation. And just saying why we're doing the Know and Confronted. We really believe that this is really a good campaign, bold campaign. And we are trying, as you can see, while we stick with the messaging of this is a very serious disease and serious issue, we are trying to do more fun things, to try also to grab other people, so the general public. What we want is people to recognize the cause and we want to be part of the cause. Because so up to today, you would say that there's a lot of interest, but a lot of interest coming from patient groups, of hepatologists, so people that are already interested in hepatitis. What we want to do is break the niche, expand that, and get the general public talking about it. And obviously, reduce stigma stigma, create awareness, etc. So this is where I kind of ask you all to, if that's okay with you, Marty, to do the 3 wise monkeys gestures, because maybe it would be nice to have a picture of the ELPA team doing it, and we can put it up. Or do you think this is too prescriptive and everybody, maybe I should give the ladies the chance to put some lipstick on maybe first? Yeah, and we can put that later, I don't mind, but it would be very nice to get ELPA and the ELPA members doing it, and we can put it up.
It's a very good idea, and I wanted to invite everyone to spend 5 more minutes after the end of the meeting. We're going to stand in front of here, and you can do the monkeys, you can do something else, you can monkey around as much as you can, and we'll make a group photo which we can put on the website, because we have all of the new members, and I would like to have all of you on our website smiling and monkeying. I want to show to the world that we are united, that there are many of us, and that we're still having fun while working. So if you don't mind, and if you have the time, if you're not asleep and starving, we can spend 5 minutes to take a shot. Is that okay?
Yeah, that would be great, yeah. Because I think it would be very good if you go behind this. But any questions about the campaign at all? About the monkeys, about logistics, about the Guinness World Record?
About the Kindle Fire?
About the Kindle Fire. You know, I can get you too. 10 euros. Anyone wants to buy my opinion. No questions?
I have a question. So you said that the toolkit will be available on the World Hepatitis Alliance website. So each and every country would be able to just adapt in their own language the slogan. Is this how it works?
All right. So as of next month, oh, actually we're in the end of April. So next week's the customizable tool is there. So you'll be able to get all the posters will be there, and you can actually just put your logo, add your logo to the poster, add a message in your own language, and just create whatever you want. What we want, we don't want just to send you posters and say you have to use them. What we want to do is to offer you the images. You might actually say, look, that baby doesn't look like a Romanian baby, or Bulgarian baby, or it doesn't look Asian. I want a baby that represents my country. So you may want to choose the images as well. So this is for you to adapt and make sure that it's relevant to your country. And in the next week you'll be able to do that. Just access our website, you have all the materials, all the logos, everything in there for you.
That would be next week?
End of next week, if I'm not mistaken. But we're going to be sending you all a note to say that the website is live. It should be very, very soon.
Hi, Christina from ELPA. Question from Marinella. Considering that this year it will be on a Sunday, the 28th, is it okay to maybe do, if for this reason there are some problems in a specific country, to do it 1, 2, 3 days ahead or behind? So is there flexibility from this point of view? Or?
For the Guinness, not so much. Unfortunately, they're very strict. But for your own events, why not? If you want to, if you think, for instance, I was talking to WHO, and because it's on a Sunday, they think that if they're going to attract more media, they need to do a media statement or issue a media statement 2 days before. So they're thinking about doing something on the Thursday or Friday. So that's absolutely fine. But if you want to participate in the Guinness, unfortunately they have that 24-hour rule, like last year. Otherwise, because they want all the countries doing it within the 24-hour. But we're going to send you more information about it. But if you really, really cannot do it, look, there's no way. We still really welcome you to do it. This is and get the community involved and send the pictures to us. And we're going to put your pictures up. It's not going to count towards the Guinness achievement, but we still encourage you to do it because it's a fun activity and people like doing that. So why not?
Any more questions?
Everybody's ready for World Hepatitis Day?
Well, so we understood that everyone can use all the posters, and we can translate them into all the languages. We can use all the images that we want to, and we encourage you to brand all of your activities. If you have roundtables, if you have screenings, We'll talk about this a little bit later when we come to what is going on in some of the countries that ELPA is helping to organize some events in several countries in Europe. We encourage all of our members to use the posters. If you're planning some screenings for WHD, if you're using mobile units, you can use the posters to brand the units. So you use like a poster for your organization, of course, and then you'll select one of the WHA with the monkeys or with the babies or baby monkeys, whatever you want to. Then if you have a roundtable event, it would be great also to feature the posters somewhere behind. If you have media covering the event, if the media catches the posters, then you will have more weight, you know, as part of an international organization. The Guinness World Record, yes, will be on the 28th, but if you want to make your events, like Raquel said, you can make them in different days, because this year, unfortunately, the 28th is on a Sunday, which is a slight hindrance, you know, in terms of getting the media attention. And I know that many of the countries are making their events, the policy roundtables or anything else, before the 28th or after the 28th. So do the best that you can in your own environment, but if you want to get on board with the See No Evil, Hear No Evil, Do No Evil, and there's also Do No Evil, actually, there's a fourth monkey. I've read about a fourth monkey which has Do No Evil, and it's the sign for the monkey is a monkey with its hands tied.
Oh, there you go then.
But then
you need to get on to Healer and get her to do another monkey then.
Well, maybe we can do the fourth monkey next year. But for this year, you can use the 3 monkeys, and you can be the 4th monkey, which actually does everything. So, do you have any final questions, thoughts, comments, ideas? No?
No, I think everybody's ready to go for classes today. If you have any questions anyway, just send it to us and contact us. We're more than happy to help, and we're happy to send you the three guys over there. So just contact us or go to our group.
And don't steal them.
And yeah. Well, thank you everybody. I think what I'll do now is just pass the word to Seb, who will be initiating a workshop about social media, and he will be able to tell you a little bit more about Twitter and Facebook and give you some ideas of how to use those tools in your organizations to generate media, to get people to support your campaign, etc. I think that's it for me now.
Let's wrap up. I also want to add to this that after Seb's presentations and his workshop, we're going to have a short presentation from DPF. But I want to make sure that, you know, today we'll try to wrap up till about 4 o'clock, 4:30 at max. Is everyone okay with this? Sure? You say sure? Okay, so we speak for everyone because you're at the front. Everyone's happy. So, Seb, you're welcome.
Thank you everybody for your time today. My name's Seb. I come from an agency, a communications agency in the UK called Red Door Communications. We're based in London. And we've been lucky enough to work with Raquel on the World Hepatitis Alliance team for the last 2 years. So we've been integral to implementing the communications plan you've just seen. And today I've been invited on to come give some training in this workshop for the session today. And what the focus of this is intended to be is largely looking at digital and social media communications that we can implement and use as a bit of a best practice. For the basis of the training and the workshop, we've actually used the template of the Digital Academy, and that is actually an accredited training course in the UK that's accredited by the Institute of Digital Marketing. So it's an important training session. Hopefully it's going to be thought-provoking, and the really, really important thing is that we have lots of discussion and feedback, and this is meant to be a collaborative experience, so hopefully it's going to cause, create a lot of discussion throughout the presentation. In terms of the session right now, we've just got the immediate topics here, which really go through multi-channel marketing. So this is something that a lot of consumer brands have adopted with quite a lot of impetus and gusto over the last few years, and just to look at some of the principles behind multi-channel marketing and how we can implement those in the campaigns that we all have. Search engine marketing, so with the the dominance of Google, making sure that we've got websites and web materials that are particularly prominent, and how do we do that? So this for me is a really, really important area in terms of the next stage of communications, making sure that we're optimised, making sure that we've got a good presence within search engines. So this should be quite an important session. Following that, we'll go into social media and then analytics. So, very, very importantly, that we need to measure and analyse all of the activities that we do to make sure we've got a return on investment. So the analytics chapter looks at that. And then finally, we touch on traditional media. So although that's within the training course, the focus is going to be across the digital and social media communications platforms. As Martin mentioned this afternoon, we've got a brief workshop before then moving on to some of the other presentations. So starting with multi-channel marketing, just a bit of blue sky thinking. Who can shout out just some of the channels that they've operated in or had read or seen this morning before this session? Who's been receptive to messages across different platforms? Can anybody start shouting out different channels or platforms that they've been receptive to?
Facebook.
Social, good. Anyone else? Newspapers? TV? Radio? Email? This is just to start to encapsulate what actually a channel is. So clearly a communications platform like email, we're on every day. This is going to be the year where more content is accessed, or more email content is accessed by mobile and desktop. So it's just to start to think that we're constantly receptive to these messages in terms of the experience of being in this congress, and that in itself is a channel with which we can operate our marketing messages and our communications messages that we work with. So that's just to start to build context of what actually we mean by channel. In terms of what multi-channel means, the very essence, the brilliant basics of the definition, it simply is the fact that we've got a single campaign message that goes out across two or more channels or platforms. So if you think about a single campaign message that maybe goes out by email, or a direct mail, or a website, then that's the big channel, so we've got a single campaign message going out across. So by the very virtue of that, we've got a multi-channel campaign. What that's evolved from is a more old school thinking, which is that you would have a specific campaign go out by email, you have a very different campaign go out by a website, and a very different campaign go out by mobile. So this is to say that we've got one single campaign message that sings across all of the different platforms that we're operating in. And really, we'll come on to that in a minute, but the real impetus for a multi-channel approach is that it gives us a massive return on investment, because instead of creating assets and creating materials that are specific to one channel, we can really repurpose those assets and materials so that they can go across all platforms, and therefore we can reach a much wider audience as a result of that. So that's the sort of essence of the approach that we're looking at today. Some of the backdrop to that, so our audience has changed and very, very rapidly. This is just some research by Exact Target, who is a future trends focus group across Europe, but particularly focused in the UK. And as you can see, back in 2010, the average consumer, the average patient, the average person looking at information online required 5.3 sources of information before they would come to an opinion, before they would declare themselves to have been raised awareness, before they make a purchasing decision. 2 years later, that's almost doubled to 10.4 sources of information before they've reached that same point. Does anybody have any ideas before I sort of reveal the answers to why that is? And it's an exceptionally simple answer. Feel free to shout out.
May I ask something?
Sorry?
May I ask something?
Sure.
I mean, this could be interpreted in two ways,
Sure.
of course. Because it's not sure that 10.4% have a righter answer or a better answer than the first. It can be both ways. I mean, it can be that you see a lot and therefore decide later.
Yes.
With more knowledge. But it can also be that the knowledge you have is more split or more confusing or more. I mean, what can we do with these figures? How do you interpret them?
Well, this has been done through research of looking at people's behaviour, predominantly online, so there's an online bias. But it looks at the sort of numbers of websites, the numbers of sources of information that they've actually gone to before they've actually reached a decision or opinion, or even proceeded to make a purchase from a sort of brand's perspective. But what the essence of the point is is that actually people now have so much more data, so much more information at their fingertips. So we look at the prevalence of the smartphone that's been disseminated. Everybody's now on iPhone 5 or iPhone 4, iPhone 3's largely dropped off. We've got this wealth of data. We're absolutely sinking in a sea of data. And what that really shows is that the multi-channel approach is absolutely vital, because the more channels that we can have that touch the 10.4 sources of information that people now tend to see and be receptive to before they make a decision, the more likely we are to actually influence them in the content that we're trying to put across. So gone are the days where we can rely on one single campaign message going out across one channel, because patients, consumers, our audiences are looking at a vast array of different channels before they actually have the sort of gusto to actually have that opinion and that informed opinion.
But if it goes on, it could be that nobody can ever take a decision. Because if it goes on and on and on, if we continue that line, at the end it would take you 2 years to make a decision. Before that, you're done.
Yeah, I mean, that's also to do with the immediacy of the technology. So, because we're all operating on, or increasingly operating on 4G or 3G, you can very, very quickly look at multiple sources of information, and things like social media are very important. So you think about a website like TripAdvisor, where you've got lots of comments about, hotels, travel, destinations, etc. That it really reaffirms your opinion. So you're not just going to look at a hotel website, you're going to check them out on TripAdvisor as well before you make that decision. So if you've got information, if you've got influencers who might be advocates who are feeding back positively on TripAdvisor whilst you've got your advertising content, then that's a real strong multi-channel approach, which is kind of the point behind the sort of chapter of information. The media revolution, just to add a little bit more, if we've got a question.
Yes, I have a question. You have to realize that not everybody speaks English very fluently, so maybe you can slow down.
Sure.
Thank you. It's a good comment. Good comment. And maybe...
Where do you come from?
Maybe again I have to remind everyone that if you have troubles understanding anything, what's 2G, 3G, multi-channel, one channel, blah, 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 just please raise your hand.
Absolutely. The next series of slides really show the proliferation of the different channels over the last couple of decades. So looking back at 1990, we had some very traditional means of communications. We had TV, radio, print, and display advertising. So we're all very familiar with those channels. Moving ahead to 1999, we see the invention of the internet. So with that comes all of the website search and display, paid search, landing pages, websites, microsites, online advertising, webinars, etc. So that's the evolution in just the space of 9 years. And looking further at 2012, we've really seen the invention of the Web 3.0, which essentially means the social web. So it's not just about putting information online, there's content that you're broadcasting your message to, you're actively seeking engagement with your community, so that they're part of the whole community, they're part of the marketing, they're part of the messaging that you're trying to put across. So that's just to highlight the proliferation of all of the different channels that we now have to be aware of if we're going to be effective communicators within our countries and for the organisations that we represent. This is just an example of a multi-channel marketing campaign. So you can see that you would have a single essence, a single message, which goes out across all of the different platforms that you see here. So you might have a TV advertisement that you put up, you might then display that as web ads. You might have a website that you drive traffic to, and therefore you can actively engage with people and capture them and start to evaluate how many people are coming through to your website. You might have a direct mail campaign that supports that, email, videos, etc. So it's just a highlight that we have so many channels within our communications mix now that we have to be on top of in terms of what we can achieve, what we can monitor, what we can evaluate.
I have a question.
Sure.
Can you go back? I see here 12 channels.
Yeah.
Can you guys raise your hand and say how many channels you're using in your country, maybe?
With hands, if we have more than 2 channels?
Yes, one finger per channel, so raise 12 fingers if anyone is doing everything. Is anyone multi-channeling right now? Lithuania is multi-channeling. I know Bulgaria is multi-channeling. So someone's doing there.
We are everywhere.
Germany, Romania. Serbia, yes. Okay, so who has all of those? 12. Does anyone has 12? Croatia?
2.
2. Anyone got 12? 2? Okay, sold for 2. 3. And you know, all of these channels, it looks like a lot of things that you can do, but all of these can be found for free as well. So you can have free advertising in newspapers, free advertising in videos, articles, blogs, and so on and so forth. So you can also prepare your content, and you can use a service which will distribute everything automatically. So you don't have to spend 5 hours a day looking through all of these channels and feeding them all. You just have to find the right service, and if you are interested in this, then we can facilitate this process, and we can find you the services that will help you to facilitate all of these, to work with all of these channels. You just have to let us know. So don't be afraid of engaging people in all of the channels. Like Steph said, of course people nowadays turn to their phones, to their mobile devices, to their laptops, because there's just so much information and no one trusts one single source. Even if it says this is written by God, someone will check something else. So don't be afraid to engage.
Yeah. And if you create really rich media assets like a video, then the perfect thing to do would be to house that on YouTube, on Vimeo, which is an alternative to YouTube. You'd house it on your website. There's reasons for that we'll come on to within search engine marketing. You would find as many places you've invested your money in producing a nice bit of video. Why not put it across as many channels as you can in order to influence people? There's no reason why you wouldn't do that to get the maximum return on investment from that investment in creating that asset, that video. So that's just the kind of approach, the kind of a mindset that we're trying to adopt by implementing a multi-channel approach. Just a few more statistics here. Really the belief behind multi-channel is exceptional. So 65% I think is the key percentage figure here for a statistic, showing that a lot of brands and a lot of organisations really deem multi-channel customer to be far more valuable than the single-channel customer. So if you've got people that are not only following you on Twitter and retweeting your content, but they're also going through to your website, they're subscribed to your email database to receive your newsletters, that's a far more valuable person that's going to be far more on board with your messaging than somebody who's just maybe come onto your website, responded to a survey, and then bounced off onto another piece of content. So that's sort of the key, in terms of the backdrop and providing more of an argument for the multi-channel approach.
Seb, excuse me, I would just ask you again to just a little bit slowly. Thank you.
When we look at the multi-channel approach, the key considerations that we go through are listed here, and this is a process called channel planning. The two main considerations are, first and foremost, cost considerations. What does our budget allow us to actually do? Can we invest in an email wave? Can we keep, or do we need to keep things more simple by just issuing a press release and start to do media liaison to get editorial coverage? What is actually the budget with which we can actually start to delineate which channels we can actually target? So that's obviously quite an integral one and quite a basic consideration, because the cost defines the type of channel we can invest in. But alongside that is also the internal costs to the organisation. So, for example, with social media, are you actually set up to facilitate a campaign in social media? Do you have somebody within your organisation that can actually, keep online, post comments, tweet every day, think about what might be interesting for the community to tweet and encourage discussion? That's a lot of time investment, and therefore, a lot of off the bottom line when it comes to somebody's salary, when it comes to keeping the community engaged. So organisational and internal structure is a really key consideration, which is often overlooked. A lot of people jump in and sort of say, we need to do social media, we need to be seen to be doing social media, but don't actually think about the internal process and the restructuring that they might have to go through to actually facilitate a decent campaign. Married alongside the cost considerations are the suitability and appropriateness of the messaging that we're trying to deliver via the channel. So, for example, an email wave is going to be something that's quite simple. There's a call to action at the end of the email to facilitate a next step. It's not just going to be the email wave, there's usually a call to action. But the messaging within the email will actually be very, very simple, because it's a broadcast medium. Whereas social networks, in contrast, allow you to have much longer term engagement. It's much more about the dialogue. You can nurture relationships. So if the objective is to actually get more advocacy from the people that you're outreaching to, then more of a social campaign might actually be worthwhile in terms of building those relationships through dialogue and actually strengthening them through advocacy. So that's sort of an additional consideration when we're channel planning as to what might be the most appropriate channel to implement our campaigns across. Just a little exercise now, just to start to think about how different channels actually affect behaviour and affect people's, how personal the communication is that we're delivering, how personal it is to an individual. So we've got a few different types of communications approach listed on the slide. I just wanted to take a minute to rank them in order of how personal they are. So starting with the most personal, what's actually going to be the most personal format for the communication, all the way down to the least personal format for communication, just to sort of get an idea about how different channels affect the behaviour and the personal opinions of an individual that we're trying to reach.
Can you go again with raising hands? Worked well yesterday. Okay, who is for posting a tweet as being the most personal one? No one? Which is the most personal one then?
Meeting face to face.
Meeting face to face? Okay, so this is number one. What is number two then?
Calling someone.
Calling someone. What if you pocket dial someone? Is that personal enough? Happens. Okay, number three.
Writing a letter.
Letter or email?
No, letter.
Letter is number three. Okay. Then number four is email.
Yeah.
Then
5 is sending a text message.
5, 6.
Facebook and tweets, that's the last.
Very good.
And what if you want to communicate with someone from the European Commission? Do you post on his Facebook something? If you have their Facebook, you can post them a photo of the 3 monkeys, and you can call them, make a call for action on their Facebook with the photo of the 3 wise monkeys. Why not? You will direct attention to them. So posting a tweet is what? The last one? Okay, so let's see the results.
I think that's bang on.
Yep, we got it. Great job.
And exactly as Martin says, that just highlights that the person that we're trying to reach, the objective of the campaign, will very much focus on the type of personal type of communication we want to achieve. So, a great example of if you want to outreach to the WHO or the European Commission, then you're going to take a very different format to more of a general blanket awareness campaign, which something like Twitter and Facebook would be ideal to represent and facilitate that. Putting that into context, so just to build a little bit further on Raquel's presentation earlier, a great example, I'm biased in saying that, but a great example is the World Hepatitis Day campaign with the 3 wise monkeys. So we've got a great platform which is a social-based platform. Raquel mentioned the interactive map that we've generated. Everybody that tweets their photo of the 3 wise monkeys, Twitter will recognise the location in the world and plot you on the map, so it's an interactive map. And it also draws the photos into sort of a stream for each location. And also it's going to encourage users to actually get involved in their own time and post their own photos, as we've discussed. So that's a great asset. We've invested a lot of money in building that, and it's a great piece of technology. But we don't want to just rest on our website, because it's not going to be enough to capture the imaginations of everybody. It's not going to be enough to capture the types and volumes of traffic that are going to make it a good return on investment. So the whole thing is built in something called responsive design. So no matter what device you access it from, whether it be an iPad, an iPhone, desktop, PC, whatever it is, then it actually resizes the whole website to make it optimized for the device that you're logging into. And that's a good way of not having to invest additional money in building a mobile site. It automatically recognizes the type of device and looks the best it can on that platform. It's also driving people through to a real life experience. real-life experiences the Guinness World Record. So if people actually get involved and actually do the Guinness World Record, then that's a great experience that's been inspired by the gallery. And finally, we're conducting PR outreach around the digital and social components, the photographs that we're receiving. So again, we've got another channel through newspapers, through magazines, that we're able to leverage the investment in creating the online tool. So, from initial investment of X amount of money, we've actually created a huge number of opportunities to engage with people, to put the message out there across different channels so that we can reach as many people as possible. That's it for multi-channel, so it's a principle-led presentation. I don't know if there's any immediate questions off the back of that or anything you want to go back over and explore deeper.
I didn't understand the sustainability, channel planning and sustainability.
I think that was suitability. So, suitability. So, this is really the point that depending on the objective, depending on how complex the messages that we want to send, it will be very much determined which channel we use as a result of that. So if it's a very simple message, email's great. If it's a much more complex message than a face-to-face interaction or an in-depth article in a magazine, might be much more appropriate. So depending on the complexity, we can identify different channels to outreach to.
And this new website is also calling to action because of the Guinness thing.
Exactly. So for everybody that tweets to the hashtag #SeeHereSpeakNo, our system hits up the hashtag and automatically puts the photo into the gallery. But for every hashtag, we have an automated tweet that goes back to the sender to tell them about the Guinness World Record, to tell them about World Hepatitis Day, and how they can get more involved. So it is that very much that call to action, and it's also housed on the Alliance website as well as the Facebook page. So there's lots of opportunities to get involved in more of the content, and there's more content like videos and stuff that we're going to be producing, so getting people to be receptive to as many of those assets as possible is going to be key.
Do you have any more questions about multi-channeling? Is everyone familiar with the most famous one, the most used channels that are used right now to communicate, to convey any kind of messages? Everyone knows about Facebook, everyone knows about Twitter. You have a comment?
No, I have a question. It'd be very interesting to know, I think, how many organizations are on Facebook and how many organizations are on Twitter, for example, because these two actually seem to be the most famous ones, and so it'd be interesting to know how many, and then maybe why, if not, why not? Maybe it's a case that you don't have the resources, you need to be someone to be sending pictures and putting posts out there all the time, and you don't have that person. But it'd be very interesting as an exercise just to find out who's on Facebook and who's on Twitter, for instance.
You're on Twitter and Facebook.
Okay, so right hand Facebook, left hand Twitter. And then one leg I have a website, and another leg I have something else. Okay, we have Facebooks, we have Twitters. Facebook 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Everyone is pretty much on Facebook. And when I ask Facebook, I mean your organization's Facebook, not your personal Facebook with the photos from the sea and so on and so forth. And who is on Twitter? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And what do you use Facebook for? For your organizations? Do you post photos? Do you just have the Facebook? What do you do on Facebook in Turkey? What do you use Facebook for? Okay, and what kind of content do you put? Photos, text?
That's for Sweden.
Okay, in Sweden?
Photos and events.
Okay, so photos, events, and then campaigns.
Interesting information.
Interesting information. Are you following your statistics from Facebook? Do you know how many people are liking them, reading them, sharing them? Do you follow your statistics? We will get to the Facebook and the Twitter engagement in a little while. I have a short presentation about ELPA, and I will show you some of our behind-the-scenes stuff that is happening. And I can tell you that, for example, for the past couple of weeks, from April 14th until today, the Facebook reach of ELPA jumped from 900 and something per day to 3,800 per day. And this is just in 2 weeks. Because we were posting information about EASL, information about the WHD, and some other kind of useful information, and not always information about liver diseases and what the type of work that we do. Sometimes we try to mix the content just to keep the page live and to communicate with more people so we get high reach. Yes? There's a microphone.
Many of you obviously have Facebook, but one of the things is your Facebook linked to the ELPA page, and is the ELPA page linked to your Facebook?
No.
I'm sure not.
I know whose Facebook is linked to ours because I'm following it, and I don't see you on our Facebook.
But yeah, the question is, whenever you receive an email from Martin, Seb, or someone else, do you really read those emails where it says, if you have Facebook, please link it? If you don't understand what's written there, like what is linked, you can just answer, I don't know what is linked and how we do that. Can you help us? So they can help you. This is their job, that's why they're paid for that, to help you. So whenever they send an email, you really don't understand what's all about, you just ask them.
Yep.
Because now we have a Facebook page, I'm sure you all have many other things, but they are simply not linked. It's the same with the NAM project that just was launched yesterday. It should be linked to your web pages, it should be linked with our Facebook, with the Alliance Facebook and all the other things. So it's not big trouble, it's not lots of work for you. It's only 2 clicks away, but you have to know where to click. So ask those guys, they will tell you.
We will talk about this more later, so please be vigilant. Seb.
So, search engine marketing, who's got a website? Good. Who writes a copy for the website?
Content.
Content, copy, the words on the website. Great. So this is just a quick video around some of the typical types of conversations. It's a tongue-in-cheek video, it's meant to be a funny video, but it represents a lot of the conversations that we tend to have.
I want to be #1 on Google. I need to be #1 on Google.
I'm sure we can help, but first I need to find out a little more about your website.
I just want to be #1 on Google.
Sure. I will need to ask you a few important questions. Can you tell me what keyword you want to be #1 for?
Credit cards. I want to rank #1 on Google for credit cards. Can you do it?
That's a very competitive keyword. Can you tell me a little more? What is your URL?
www.the-simple-credit-cards-made-easy-for-you.info. Can you get me #1?
How old is your domain?
1 week old. And I want to be #1 this week.
How many backlinks do you have?
I don't know.
Have you done any on page optimization?
I don't know.
Do you know what search engine optimization means?
I don't.
Do you know what a search engine is?
Hold on, let me Google it.
Are you sure you know what you're talking about?
I want to be #1 on Google.
That represents almost a daily conversation. Everybody wants to be #1 on Google. So this next chapter really looks at search engine marketing. So what is that? Simply, it's how we increase our visibility on search engines. So not just Google, you're looking at Bing, Microsoft, looking at Yahoo, etc. And there are 2 main ways of being able to do search engine marketing. The first is around pay-per-click. PPC is how we refer to it in the UK. Google makes $75 million a day on pay-per-click advertising. So that's the little yellow box. When you do a search on Google, you have a little yellow box at the top, which is the advertisements, and you often have them down the side. There's no charge for being in those two positions until you click on that link, and then you get a cost for that click. For every click, then there is a cost that you receive to get that access content. So pay-per-click is one way of doing it. It can be, if you have a new website, an immediate way to get onto page 1 of Google because you paid to be in that top spot. But it's certainly not the best, and it's not the most. It's not the best way for a longer-term communications campaign to just simply pay to be in that top spot. Who clicks on the advertising links? Almost nobody. Why is that? Do you trust it?
Nope.
No, because you feel like you're being sold to. You know you're being sold to. So the best way of conducting search engine marketing is through search engine optimization, which is referred to as SEO. And that basically means that the content that you've got is optimized for specific keywords. You're updating it regularly so that Google knows that it's a good, decent website, that there's going to be lots of fresh news, fresh content, and that pushes you right up the ranks so that you can get onto page 1 of Google. Being number 1 is pretty hard. Although that said, I think Hepatitis has around 52 million return results on Google, so there are millions and millions of pages of results, and there's very, very little in terms of advertising, in terms of keyword optimization. So there's quite a good opportunity for people, for organisations operating in this space to really shoot up the ranks. If you've got a website that's currently on page 2, 3, 4 of Google, you could very, very easily get onto page 1 through not a lot of investment. So there is that opportunity for those of you that do have websites. Google, just a quick bit of background, is by far and away the biggest search market, search engine. In the UK, it's 91% of all searches conducted daily. That's a similar figure across Europe. But obviously there are other, you can't have a market dominated by Google, so there are other ones like Yahoo and Bing that represent about 8.95% of the other search usage. The key thing here is online user habits. So where's the best place to hide a dead body? Page 2 of Google. 80% of people do not search past page 1 of Google. So if you're not on page 1, the likelihood is you've missed 80% of the people who are searching for you. That's a phenomenal figure. I mean, I go to page 2 when I'm researching or for clients, because sometimes we're in that space where we need to do a lot of research. But in terms of the people we're trying to reach, patients, lay audiences, 80% will not go past that first page, so that's a huge statistic to be aware of. It's also the fastest growing advertising medium, and it overtook TV back in 2009, so people often think that TV is the big advertising spend. It's not, it's online search marketing. I think BMW cars spend $500,000 a week to be in that top spot, which just shows you how competitive it is. This is a heat map, and it's actually through when people are looking. So this is a pair of glasses that have been put on people as they go on a search engine, and it tracks where they're looking on the page. So you've got search engine results of all the different websites that come up, and the heat map represents the focal point of the eye, so where people tend to most be looking. And you can see the adverts on the right-hand side get very, very little attention. They're not really looked at. Whereas the top organic search, so the top non-advertising search, the first, second, third, fourth, fifth page results, are where everybody are looking. That's where you want to be. If you've got a message, if you've got a call to action, if you've got a new campaign, you want to be right at the top so that physically people are looking at your content. So that's just quite a nice visual. I think given that people don't go onto page 2, that really brings to life the importance of actually being in that top spot and making sure your website is where people are going to see it. Just in terms of the importance, so we've looked at sort of the brand perception, or the perception that your organisation has. If you're on that first page, then you're much more trusted than pages 2, 3, 4. So, in terms of the level of information, the level of advocacy, that's much more important to be on page 1. It's just a go-to place for people. I mean, as we've said, they just don't go on to page 2. So the big question, how do we conduct search engine optimization? What are the key things we need to be doing? As you can see at the top, there's hundreds and hundreds of ways of conducting SEO, but there are some really important ones. So video content is indexed 52 times better than copy, than written words on Google. So if you've got a good video, make sure it's on your website, because video content will boost you massively through the current Google algorithm. What else can you do? You can make sure your content is regularly updated. So you can look at blogs. You can get a Twitter feed on your homepage. So if you're tweeting, every day, preferably, but at least a few times a week, Google will see that as new content on your website, because the Twitter feed is updating with every tweet that you give. So that's a nice, easy way of doing it. How else can you do it? The big one is links. So if you've got, I don't know who links up to everybody else in this room, but the more links that you have to other websites, inbound links and outbound links, the better Google's going to optimise you again. So we've got a lot of advocacy, we've got a lot of connections in this room. Make sure you're linking up to the relevant websites to make sure that you've got that SEO. The other format is tags and keywords, which are vitally important. So don't have to worry too much about this. This is quite techy, but anybody that's building a website for you will have keyword tags that they put into the website so that Google can see what kind of content this is relevant for. So, putting in simple words like hepatitis, treatment, prevention, things like that, so that Google can recognise the types of content it is. And that's just important because it essentially creates a bookmark through which your content can be recognised. But the key, absolute key, is looking at keywords. So you could go onto a tool called Google AdWords. That's a free tool. And you can look at what are the search terms in your area, your area of interest. They've got particularly high volumes of searches. So, for instance, hepatitis prevention might have a lot more searches than hepatitis treatment. And that gives you some words that you can introduce into your copy, the content of the website, that is going to be that's going to attract all of those visitors that are searching using those keywords. So building in the keywords essentially means you've got the kind of content that Google recognises as popular and therefore pushes you right up the rankings. This is just an example. So it's a marketing agency called Planet Content, and if you can read that first paragraph, I'll read it out as well. Just to see how you feel that it reads. So it says, content marketing is riding on a wave right now, and searches for content marketing services in the UK are on the rise. We're coming to the end of 2012, a year which I believe has been pivotal in the acceleration of content marketing strategies. As the content marketing statistics for 2012 and 2013 projections below demonstrate, content marketing is set for further growth, which is great for content marketing strategists like me and other content creators. So it kind of reads okay, it reads a bit odd, but it kind of reads okay. But you can see how many times they've put the word content marketing in that first paragraph. They've got it right at the top in the green writing, they've got it in the title, 100 content marketing statistics, and they've got it at least 8 times in that first paragraph. So that just, when we're writing for websites, when we're writing the copy, that just shows how, although it might not read perfectly, we've actually introduced an optimization for a keyword, which in instance here is content marketing, which Google sees and sees how many times you've listed it, and means you are absolutely going to be optimized for that keyword within a Google search. So if you Google content marketing, something like this would come up very popularly.
So what you suggest is as many words like hepatitis you have in your website?
Yeah. So hepatitis is quite general. So if there's anything more specific, and this would go into the sort of AdWords, where you might look at other areas within hepatitis that people are searching for. So there might be something more niche, but absolutely, if it is generally about hepatitis, then you just want to introduce that copy or that word as much as possible within the content, in the headers, in the copy itself, to make sure that Google recognises that word. That means that for a hepatitis search, which is very general, you'll be boosted right up onto the page one ranking. And it's a very simple addition, so if you're writing or if you've got access to your website's content management system, you can go in and just spend some time rewording the copy that you've got in your website. It's a very simple thing to do, but it just means that you've got that edge in terms of making sure your message is going to cut through across everybody else's.
I just wanted to mention, when going back to this comment, how many sources that Toby was reflecting on, if there are too many sources with some kind of information and you get lost. With CEO, if you devise your website in a way that it shows on the first page of Google, it would be best if you can be the first one when someone searches for your pages for your page in Google. But if you can be on the first page, you can even optimize it in a way that the first page will show your web page several times. And if a user searches, for example, Greece, Hepatitis organization in Greece, press search in Google, and then five times your page is shown, and then the user will be most likely to trust your website. Instead of opening it, bouncing, that means just clicking to open it and then exiting right now. So it's a really, really useful tool, and not just for connecting with your members, but also when you do any kind of advocacy, you want to approach your government or local or international government, you will have more strength as an organization if you have a good internet presentation. Is that okay?
Perfect, thank you. So we've looked at the main ways, the 4 key ways of doing SEO. That's videos, that's links, that's making sure you've got keywords, and the link perspective is particularly key. So use those opportunities to link in with your other organisations. If you've got other content, if you've got multiple websites, then make sure they will link up to each other. And just look for the opportunities to get your social channels on your website. So again, the sort of links to Facebook, the links to YouTube, if you've got a video on YouTube, and getting the Twitter feed on your homepage so that it's seen as regularly updated content. That's just the key thing with linking and video content. We've looked at how we can improve it, so looking at keyword tools. I can't recommend enough just logging onto Google AdWords. I said again, it's free. And you can just look at the keywords that you want to be associated with and the volumes of searches that are associated with those keywords, so you can very quickly see which the keywords are going to be most popular and therefore get you the most traffic into your site. Web analytics, we've got a chapter later on analytics, but things like Google Analytics, making sure that's built into your website so that you can track it, track the performance of your website is absolutely key as well. So just over to you, where, in terms of some of the websites for your own organisations, where are they currently ranking on Google? Are there keywords that you've got that are, you are optimised for? Are there sort of things that now, with this in mind, that you should be optimised for? Does anybody want to sort of volunteer any case studies?
Anyone? We have a room full of people and no volunteers at all. So we will have to resort to force you into volunteering, maybe. Maybe. You're looking at me.
I was just one question. Can you repeat one more time for what you're asking volunteer? Because I lost it.
Sorry,
can you repeat one more time for what you're asking volunteer? Because I lost it.
The question.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. So the question is, we've looked at some of the ways that we can optimize our content and get onto page 1 of Google. But how many of your websites are on page 1 of Google for quite general searches, or the searches that you would hope people would use to get to your content? Where do you feature? Is it page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4? Where are you ranking in things? And if so, are you missing any of the key tricks like video content, linking, keyword searches? Just to sort of bring this into a bit more of a real life example.
So basically, have you Googled yourself? Have you?
No, we haven't Googled, we haven't tried. We always go directly, of course, to the site because we know what to search. So we were just talking about it, and we would have to do that. But
okay, so what will happen, for example, if I go online and I search for Hepatitis organization in Sweden, what will going to happen? Do you know?
We don't know what happens because we've only looked at our website. We haven't looked through Google. We haven't tried to see.
But why?
So we will do that.
When you approach your peers, doesn't matter what kind of peers, patients, the general population or anything, when you do a campaign, a media campaign, an advocacy or screening or anything like this, everyone will try to find you. And not everyone can go to your offices physically. And sometimes you don't have an office physically, so you have to have a very good online presence. And this is why CEO is so important, and this is why content is so important. And this is why checking the statistics of your website is so important, and it's something that we've actually already discussed with our neighbor here from Greece, that if you can follow your statistics and if you can see what kind of information your peers are searching in your website, then you can build on this information.
Sorry, I have to change. Now she tells me that mine has tried, and it comes up quite high. It comes up very easily. So.
Great.
Why is that? Have you got video content? Why do you think it comes up highly?
Probably because, yeah, that's a good question. But varför tror du att det kommer upp? Är det för att det är på föreningens namn eller är det för att det står hepatit?
Vi har ju måttat in det, liksom att vi är registrerade på hepatit.
Maybe because who isn't here, unfortunately, but maybe because she has consciously made it come up. You know, I'm not sure, but I'm not sure actually.
Vi måttade in informationen alltså. När man trycker på Google så plockar de upp och då måttar det upp.
Men ju mer man gör så ju mer man gör.
Ja, det är att måtta information hela tiden.
Right. She will be here this evening, so I can ask her.
You had one more question?
It's not basically a question, but when you hit Hepatitis, we are #1. Hepatitis Croatia, we are #1 on Google.
Fantastic.
It's a little trick because we are quite old and we have always put some fresh news. We are always trying to be. And what we are like to improve, that's your third question, I think. That's a very tough one because there are many things that we would like to improve, but your suggestion is, if I'm getting it correctly, the wording doesn't have to be perfect. You can put search terms as many times as you like in some sentence, and you will appear quite high, right?
Yeah, with a slight caveat, which is that there's a bit of a, when the internet first came into being, there was a bit of a practice of keyword stuffing. So just putting a ridiculous amount of keywords into a page, and Google doesn't really like that. You can get blacklisted, and if you get blacklisted from Google, you're gone. So that, with a slight caveat, that you want to make sure you've got the words that you want to be associated with in your copy, but you cannot just sort of, you cannot just have sentences of the same word repeated.
Yeah,
and you wouldn't want to because it would look like a rubbish website. But that's, somewhere between the two.
But you can model a bit. You can toy a bit with the sentences. Just put it more frequent.
Definitely. So it might not be as you would read it in a newspaper, or it might not be as you would see it in your advertisement. But it might read slightly odd. But the fact is that you've written that copy with the mindset of this is going to be something that Google picks up my keyword a lot very quickly.
Okay, thank you.
So toying with content is great, and you should always explore new ways, and to stay on top of the Google search engines, you have to always innovate. When Facebook became big, everyone started including the Facebook buttons on their website, and Twitter buttons, then all kinds of other buttons, and right now you can even install a whole section with like 1,000 buttons, because there are some people who only live for their mobile devices. But what is really important is to really follow your statistics. So you don't end up in a situation like Sweden, that something is going on, it's really great, but you don't know why. If you follow your statistics and you can see, if you build a really good either Google Analytics or something else that your developers can provide to you, then you can see and you can monitor exactly where people are coming to your website. Are they coming from Facebook? Are they coming from Twitter? Are they coming from outside sources? And which outside sources they're coming from? If you see that people are coming from Facebook, then you can devise content for Facebook, and you can push harder there. If you see that no one is coming from newspapers, and you're spending thousands of euros on newspapers, then you're wasting money, you're not spending anything. So you have to know where people come from, why do they come to you, and how you can harness this group spirit and group strength. Because if you harness it, then you can push for more changes and for policy actions. But what?
No, I was just thinking that with my private website, which is something else, it always, in the beginning when I put my little firm, or what you ought to call it, when I put it on the website, it was, or on Google, I made it consciously, I tried to make it come up on Google, but since then, It always stays on top. As soon as you Google my name, all the things will come up, and I never have to work for it. I mean, it seems like once you're there, it's very easy to keep up, because you just Google my name and everything comes up.
But there is a difference.
Okay. What is the difference?
Okay.
So the difference is, if I Google the exact name of your organization, it's going to come up. But if I'm a patient, I'm just in Sweden, a doctor just told me you have hepatitis, go home. I go home, I have Google. I'm not going to find your, I'm going to put hepatitis group Sweden, those 3 words. And I want those 3 words to direct me to you. That's why you want to make sure that if a patient is putting hepatitis Sweden group or hepatitis Sweden support group or organization, then they go to you.
I see what you mean,
That's the perfect example of how to say, people don't search in the way that you think they do, which is why you need to check how they search on Google AdWords. So they might say organisation, they might say advice, they might say the word that they're using. You will see on Google AdWords as being the most popular in terms of volume, so you can make sure that you're using that word in your copy of your website. So if people are mostly searching for hepatitis advice Sweden, then you can incorporate those 3 words into your copy. They're saying what hepatitis organisation Sweden, that's slightly different, and you can put that into your copy, or both. So that's exactly it. People very rarely put the exact search phrase into Google. It's much more general. The phenomenon is called the long tail effect, which basically means that the bulk of search engine traffic is with very general search terms, and the lesser is in the niche kind of areas. So you want to be optimized for the long tail, in essence.
Okay, I just want to mention that I did a short search in Google. I only typed hepatitis patient organization. The first entry that came out is a website by Janssen. So it's a great website, it looks fantastic, but that's not the thing that you want to see, in the browser history of your patients, and your group. Not that we don't like Janssen and we are disrespecting their work. It's just that if someone searches for a patient group, they need to find the patient group. Question, comment? Coming?
I think so that when a patient came from the doctor, he don't search for an hepatitis group, he searched hepatitis thyroid, hepatitis illness, hepatitis cirrhosis. I think it's more important that you have a long list of keys, but all the words, cirrhosis, fibrosis, hepatitis, thyroid, depressive, all words, and then you go to the top, and then they find you.
Absolutely. It should always be the first thing you do when you're creating a new website or a new piece of copy of the website to look. And exactly as you say, create a whole list of keywords that you want to be associated or optimized for, so that you get that traffic, or you get as much of that traffic as possible. So totally.
But they are also super number 1. There's the firma Janssen. They pay for it. And that's where we stop hepatitis. And then we are the first one not paid.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. And they've only paid to be there because they can't be there naturally, because of the quality of the information or the quality of the website that's being built. No disrespect to them, it's just that whoever built it for them hasn't built it in a way that Google will think of as being effective. So they paid just to be there, which is, none of us click on the links, so that shows that that's not the best way to do it. Does anybody else just want, because for me this is a really, really important topic within the whole digital sphere. So does anybody have any other sort of learnings from their own websites? So in terms of videos, everybody raised their hand to say they've got a Twitter feed. So how many people have got a Twitter feed on their web? How many people have incorporated that Twitter feed on their website homepage? Facebook. Because that's a really quick win in itself. You can just incorporate that content within your homepage and immediately you've got that fresh content to boost you up through the rankings. So I personally think this is the big go-to area for the next few years. This is going to be a huge amount of revenue for different people. It's going to be very, very important. So if there's anyone with questions, then just ask or feel free to share.
I wanted to make maybe a suggestion, something that you can think about. When you talked, it was a very good comment that you said when someone exits the office of the doctor and they're searching for their disease, not a patient group. Maybe it would be a good idea if you can produce posters of your organization and you write on the poster this hepatitis patient group who deal with blah 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 something, and just add your email and have these posters in the hospitals. Then when a patient goes out of the hospital, they see that there's a patient group and then they search for you. So instead of only relying on the wording of your CV, yeah, you can use the microphone.
I think that's I'm very short. I think that's a very good idea. And I just wanted to share an example because I know that the Hepatitis C Trust in the UK, they distributed business cards to the nurses and to doctors. So maybe it was more towards treatment then, but if you went to talk to your nurse, then she would give a business card to you with the address of the patient group if they wanted more support, because when you're going to a doctor, you only have 10 minutes. So this is a good idea. I'm just saying, maybe putting a poster up, great idea, maybe talking to the GP, maybe printing business cards and asking the doctors to distribute, and then so patients will know about your organizations, and this really works.
There is another thing. What we are doing, because right now we are...
Coming.
Okay. What we are doing right now, because we have support groups since last year, we've made posters and we distribute them in the hospitals.
I was actually going to mention this because I remember your posters, I've seen them.
Yes, and it's not necessary to ask the doctor, doctor, please give me some business card, because the doctors are usually really busy. So, but the patient goes into the hospital and see these posters, and they are permanently there. And another thing, we've made leaflets, and we gave them to the person who prepared the protocols for the treatment. Because in Bulgaria, I don't know in other countries, but when you're let's say that you're going to be on treatment, you see the doctor and then a second doctor who prepare your documents. And also we gave these leaflets to the person who prepared the documents. So when a person, or let's say future patients come, he gave him all his documents and with this leaflet, and he says, okay, you're going to be on treatment the next 6 or 12 months, you are going to experience really difficult times. So go take this leaflet and go to this group. And this is really good because many people come from there. And it's really helpful to make posters and to just distribute them into hospitals.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Any questions, comments? Someone wants to add something? Coming?
Another topic, but I think it's important from my own professional organization. In Austria, there is a big discussion about Urheberrecht, the right on your own photo, and what you are allowed to put on a website. Are there regulations or helps, or is it different in every country? In Austria now, 2 weeks ago, there will be a law that you are not even allowed to photograph someone on the street. So it will be severe. So in consequence, what are we allowed to post on a website?
Yeah. So for things like videos, then even in the UK, if you've captured the general public, you need to ask their permission. if you're going to publish that material on a website or on wherever you're going to publish it, you do have to ask their permission at least, because it's their face and they're maybe being associated with something that they may not want to be associated with. So you have to always ask permission. That's the same with photos, but there's no blanket ban. Obviously a country like China, you've got a very different issue with regards to what you can put on a website because of censorship. So it does definitely vary per country, but you can always seek permission from the people that if you're doing some work in sort of interviews with the general public to ask them about their thoughts on hepatitis or hepatitis prevention, then all you have to do is just ask their permission from many countries. I'm not sure about the specific case in Austria, but certainly in the UK and in many European countries, video content, photography, news, etc. can all be published on websites, so you've got relatively free reign as long as you do it in an ethical way. The pharmaceutical industry obviously has a very different set of regulatory environment to be aware of, so but that's not necessarily something that is implicit for us.
Sebastian, while we all recognize Twitter as a powerful tool, especially if you can get a celebrity to retweet your tweet, then you are absolutely number one. But most organizations struggle with content.
Yeah.
There's simply not enough fresh news for Twitter. To keep the Twitter running, you have to have tweets 4 times a week at least.
Yeah.
But most organizations, patient organizations, don't have that much fresh news. What are your recommendations?
That bridges into this presentation perfectly. So we're going to look at lots of different options in this presentation on social media.
Okay.
So that's perfect.
Thank you.
So looking at social media, this has obviously been a massive focus for many organisations over the last few years, and the sort of viral effect that you can achieve, the kind of audience numbers that you can reach through social media is absolutely massive. So for instance, if you've got a Twitter following of only 500 people, that's not huge. Each of those followers will have 200 followers, etc. And suddenly you get this huge viral effect of people retweeting your content, and from only a channel that maybe has 500 followers, you can reach millions and millions of people through the sort of effect of retweeting and through the viral community-led nature of social media. So that's why it's been such a particular focus, and I think only now we're really starting to get to the grips of what we can achieve. But the comment about the types of content we can put out there is particularly key, because we're often very time poor. We don't necessarily have somebody who can focus on our social media channels, so having something that we can quickly distribute or quickly do every day is a key way of keeping our audiences engaged. Another reason social is so important is because 35% of all people who search for social media use health as a reason to go onto social networks. So health is a really key topic. For websites, health has become the main reason why anybody goes onto the internet to conduct a search. So that gives us a huge opportunity. But the same is true, not quite to the same extent, but the same is true for social media. It's a huge reason why people go onto social media. You look at things like Pinterest, which you may have seen as an image, online pinboard. There are huge numbers of disease awareness initiatives on Pinterest, things like breast cancer awareness, diabetes, etc. So social has really become very, very health focused, and that gives us an opportunity to engage in social media from our perspectives within liver and hepatitis. Just a few statistics. So Facebook has got older. The average age of the Facebook user is now 35 years old. The infographic, which isn't particularly readable, shows that on the top right here, that Facebook users are massively engaged with brands, with organisations. So there's been a bit of a debate that social networks should just be used for conversation between peers, and brands, organisations, etc. shouldn't really have a place in this space. But actually look at the statistics, and 75% of all users of Facebook like pages to do with key organisations, with brands, etc. So it is very relevant for our messaging. With regards to Twitter, then the age demographic is much, much lower, and we're going to look at other channels as well, not just Facebook and Twitter. But for Twitter, then the average age is 18 to 25 as the predominant age group. So it's younger in its feel, it's younger in its sort of functionality. But again, even more people, about 90% of all people on Twitter engage with brands, engage with organisations, global, local. So it's very, very relevant for all of the information that we've got to engage in this space. One piece of content that we've worked on with the Hepatitis Alliance is an infographic, and we're going to probably look at more opportunities to produce infographics over the next few months and leading further into the campaign. And an infographic is essentially a summary in a very visual way. It might be that we could produce an infographic following this conference at EASL, or it might be that you have an infographic about some new data that you've got, or it might be a summary of the news over the course of a couple of weeks, what's changed. So the infographic we produced literally just lists the key transmission routes for hepatitis B and C. And this has been one of the most shared pieces of content that we've ever had on the World Hepatitis Alliance Twitter channel. And when I say share, it's been retweeted, it's got people involved, it's generated debate and conversation. So just creating something visual, rather than just a comment on news or a comment for the sake of it almost. Taking the time to produce something visual is going to be much, much more stimulating for a community, and they're going to create a lot more involvement off of the back of that. So, there's no news associated with that infographic. It's just a summary of facts. But as I say, it's been the most, by far and away, the most engaged with and most socially inspired piece of content that we've actually ever produced or ever had. So that just shows the kind of opportunity can be very, very simple. If we've got something to say, let's put that into a very visual way. And given that we're on the desktops and mobiles, visual works so much better. So a nice picture. The old adage of a picture says 1,000 words is so true, and that's something that we need to do much, much more of to stimulate the communities that we have and the communities that we look to be engaging with. Just another sort of business case for Twitter almost. So this piece of research looked at the number of people who made recommendations off of the back of A, subscribing to their email, B, liking their Facebook page, and C, following their Twitter channel. And as you can see, far, far more people who followed on Twitter actually recommended to all of their peers the content that they'd seen. So that just shows that although we tend to focus on Facebook and Twitter, Twitter is a really, really strong way of being able to communicate messages, get recommendations, build advocacy, and support within your networks. And that really sings a pretty positive story for Twitter. So if you haven't got that set up as an organisation, you should really think about doing so and putting that planning in place in terms of who's going to manage that channel, who's going to be responsible for it, and who might want to, within the organisation, put together infographics or very visual piece of information to distribute over the channels. So looking more widely, YouTube has been a phenomenal source of information. YouTube is owned by Google. It is the second largest search engine after Google. So, that kind of representation of how important video is. So we looked at video in terms of optimizing your website by putting the video on your website. It's also fundamental for capturing this second largest search engine, that is YouTube, so having information and messages go out on that channel too. YouTube also offers the opportunity to have a commenting policy and also to actually approve any comments that go live. So when you receive a comment, you can approve it or decline it, so that if you've got that upfront vision of what the comment says before you push it live. So unlike Facebook and Twitter, whereby the user comes on, posts a comment, and it's there, with YouTube you can set it up so that any comments can be moderated by yourself before it goes live. So that's a nice opportunity, because if we don't want people coming onto our channel and writing bad things, or potentially things that might be quite negative, then that gives us an opportunity to actually see that comment and approve it to go live before it goes out into our channel, because we're going to be associated with all of the content on our channel, even if we didn't write it. So That's just an important example. Talking about Janssen again, they produced a channel called Living with ADHD, and that was a hugely popular channel in the UK. The video alone received 250,000 video views within a few months, and it inspired well over 2,000 comments. So for quite a very specific disease area, the compelling content through the video, through having some really nice, engaging content through the video, inspired a lot of community action, and it also generated a lot of press. So that just goes to show how important YouTube can be as a channel, and how important video is for consumers.
Can we ask how many organizations here use YouTube actively? Anyone? We have in Italy, France, Serbia, Croatia, and Romania. And you. Okay, anyone else? What kind of videos do you post in Macedonia? So, what kind of videos do you produce?
Conferences like this, workshops.
Is it just
educational
on
material
screens?
mostly. Mostly educational material.
Just educational material. Do you see the statistics, how many people view them? Do you have any comments? Are people commenting on them? Are people engaging with them?
Comments are usually disabled because of the trolls, internet trolls, because we don't want negative content. We want to be there to be presentable, to present something, but we don't need internet trolls.
Well, you will have internet trolls everywhere.
Yeah, but when you disable comments, then people can simply focus on the video and not on the...
But then what if you then lose one positive comment? What if someone wants to outreach to you?
That's the price that you're willing to pay, because with the video we have tags that leads to Hepatitis, that leads to anybody who wants to ask any sane or normal question. But
then do you have like a forum on your website for direct engagement with people? What I'm asking basically is, do you have some place, some vehicle, some channel for people to come to your organization and engage with you and to engage between themselves?
Yes.
I know that Hepatitis, you have a forum.
We have a really good forum.
Yes, you have a great forum, and there are trolls there, I'm sure, but you're doing a good job to filter them. It's easy to delete the trolls, it just takes a little bit of time.
We have like 1,500 members, and let's say 10 trolls per day. But we delete them.
Okay, so you see 1,500 people are members, and let's say 200 are commenting on a weekly, monthly, whatever basis. And then on top of this, you have only like 5 or 10 trolls. Mind you, this is, we are all engaged in liver diseases. We're not engaged with Lady Gaga or with Justin Bieber, so there won't be so many trolls. You cannot write something about triple therapy and expect someone to come and troll to you, oh no, that's stupid, that's not going to work, or I don't like your music. So there won't be that many trolls. Don't be afraid to engage with your audiences, and video materials are the best things that outreach easily, because even the media, when some kind of, I don't know, TV channel is interested in you, they can just pick up the video and they can streamline it. They don't have to spend any time to think about the content. They just take it from you, copy and paste, and it's out there. And video is the easiest thing for users to take in, because with video you have most visual and most audio perception for everyone. So it's the fastest.
Because some people are visual and some people don't get the information that way. And if you're sick and you really want to know things, you don't want the pictures. You don't want pictures or videos or anything. You just want to know.
This is why we were talking about multi-channeling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're not saying do only video. We're not saying do only Facebook, do only Twitter. Do everything. Do as much as you can.
But I don't think, you can't say that visual ability is always, because people are different, you know. Some
Not
people
always.
cannot take in visual things.
Not always.
I think you look at younger age demographics, and they're very much inspired by visuals. So you look at, as we were saying with Twitter, then the age demographics are much lower. And to the point that Martin mentioned, the multi-channel approach means that we can talk to very young age groups through very visual means, and people who want much more information through copy and content we can also kind of capture. So it just means we're not limiting, who we can talk to in the most engaging way. Yeah. But coming back to the point about your YouTube channel, so you can, there are, just like Google Analytics, you've got YouTube Analytics, which is free, so you can look at, for every video that you've got in your channel, you can look at how many times it's been viewed, but more importantly, did they watch the whole video? Did they drop off after 5 seconds, in which case they've missed some of the key messages? So you can get the geography of the location of everybody that's viewed your video. So that's a really important insight, and it's free. So all you need to do is just log in, and you can see at what point the average user stopped watching the video. Which would suggest your video is too long, or you need something that's going to draw them through the content. So that's that's the first thing. With regards to the commenting, I would you've chosen to engage in a social space. So why not be social? Because that sits at loggerheads in a way.
No, we are social, but we prefer Facebook for commenting and stuff, not YouTube channel. I don't know. This was just the decision. But Facebook looked like a better way.
Yeah, because YouTube, you've got even more ability to control what is public. So if you've got a good comment, great, publish it, it's live. If you've got a bad comment, you can just delete it and nobody will ever have seen it. Only you, as the person that's received the comment, you can choose whether it goes onto the page or whether it's just deleted without ever being seen. So that's unlike Facebook, which is where every comment just gets published immediately. And you have to go on after people have seen it to delete it. So you've got YouTube gives you a fantastic ability to capture more positivity, and you don't want to just display positive. You can create debate through a negative comment. Just because one person's got a negative opinion, that might inspire 30 other people to say, no, you're wrong. This is how I feel. So I'd recommend that you sort of maybe put a control in place to moderate the comments.
Something to reconsider, definitely.
But yeah.
By the way, I've seen a red door at LinkedIn. Do you have some stats or figures for that kind of network? LinkedIn,
LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I don't actually to hand. It's something that we sort of, when we've got a white paper or if we've got a new report, we can create a community within LinkedIn to sort of view and comment on that report. It's not actually, it's a good point because it's not actually a focused channel for us. We've got a channel there, but we're much more focused on Twitter and our website. LinkedIn tends to be just for sort of HR and sort of resourcing, but it's not a channel that we've really put a lot into.
Just very quickly going back to YouTube, because I think this is such a good opportunity for the groups, and maybe if you are not using YouTube, an idea maybe would be to, because as Seb mentioned, this drives traffic to your website as well. You can post the video on Facebook, you can post the video on YouTube. One of the things that you could do that's very simple, because maybe you're thinking, oh, how can I do a video? I'm not a producer, I have no idea. Something that's very easy is to do a questions and answers session, 10 minutes, with a doctor that you know. So you may want to just approach a hepatologist or a doctor that you know and just literally sit him in a chair and then ask him 10 questions that you think a patient would want to know, and then conduct a very quick interview and put that online. So that can be filmed with an iPhone. Yeah. Very simple. And I bet there are going to be a lot of patients that will want to get the information. That's something so easy to do because I'm sure you have access to a lot of doctors and you'll be able to find one that can do. So 10-minute questions and answers with your doctor. What is hepatitis C? Can I get treated? What are the symptoms? What about the, and then if it's successful, you might want to do follow-ups. You might want to do a question and answers just about, I don't know, stigma with someone else. A question and answers about depression. A question, it's just an idea. And maybe ELPA could provide more ideas.
It's a very good idea, and I can share with you the experience that I've had with distributing content over Facebook, because we're mainly concentrating on Facebook at this point. When we post like a minute, minute and a half, about 2 minutes. That's as short as we can make it. About hepatitis, be it awareness or just some basic information or something like that. If we have the time and you guys have the strength and the willing, I can show you some of the content on our Facebook page, on the ELPA, our Facebook page. I can show the videos, and you can see that a video of 2 minutes on hepatitis C with a stick figure, which is very funny, and it's a very old video. It's not something made. I'm sure some people have seen it. This video gets like hundreds, not 100, hundreds and hundreds, sometimes thousands of views, likes, shares, not so many comments, because again, we are a little bit more prolific, you know, organization, but it gets a lot of attention, a lot of attention. Then we post the same thing in written format, which is written in a recognized paper, which is shared, and it's again very simple. What is hepatitis C? How do you catch it? How do you prevent it? How do you treat it? And so on and so forth. C, B, A, everything. It's really simple. But the written one gets 100, 150 maybe views, couple dozen likes maybe, but that's it pretty much. But the video goes huge. And the biggest one of the biggest ones are also photos. We've had great success when sharing the images from the WHD that WHO made. So they're not exactly, you know, talking about the disease or anything. They're just drawing attention. And if you can get their attention and you can spark an interest of people to search for the information on themselves, then you really have their attention. But if you just give them something, here, read this, then they'll just, yeah, okay, I have so many things to read, I'll just leave it in the pile. But if you spark their attention, then you win them. Is that okay? Thank you. And then maybe I can show you a short video with our vice, not vice anymore, but policy director that he made last year. It's 2 minutes video, and you'll laugh about it. It just outlines how easy it is to just grab a camera, film a short video, post it somewhere, and it grabs everyone.
I guess the only other thing to add to that is, you know, there's a great phrase which is that from sort of behavioural psychology that says people buy with emotion and back it up with logic. So if you're trying to convince somebody of a message or you know, dispel a myth or break stigma, then the best entry point to that is to grab their emotion, and then the sort of, you know, any supporting information, supporting data just goes in to reaffirm that you know, that emotional impact that you've had from the outset of the video. So you know, videos that, you know, inspire and pull the heartstrings and you know, trigger emotion are going to be really, really powerful and something that a lot of people are going to share. So looking at Wikipedia, Wikipedia is another great social platform, and you know, we've had experiences of editing Wikipedia pages. So you know, there is a Wikipedia page dedicated to World Hepatitis Day. We have edited that ourselves in multiple languages so that it's up to date with the theme that we have for the year. That it's got links out to websites. You can very easily on Wikipedia look at how many people go onto that page. So there's something like 11,000 people that hit the World Hepatitis Day Wikipedia page every month. So to make sure we've got a link through to the World Hepatitis Alliance website on that Wikipedia entry is really important. As a sort of charity and patient-led organisation, and that gives us a really good opportunity to do that, because a brand or a pharmaceutical company can't really do that because it's not really seen, it's just seen to be promotional. So that gives us a good opportunity to make sure we've got links on key content in Wikipedia out to our sites. You have to be slightly careful with Wikipedia, so you can make edits, you can make changes, but you can't really create brand new pages, and if you try to do so, then you can get you know, a bit of a telling off from the Wikipedia community. So the best practice always states that you should always engage with the people who are interested in those pages and let them know about what your plan is before actually doing it. So a bit like you talk to a journalist to get